What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single week right here in the show, I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the content that I watch on the WWE Network. Today we got our second episode ever of WWE Photo Shoot, airing after Raw last week, February 5th, 2018, with none other than Eric Bischoff. So I talked about the second episode with Cesaro about a month ago on New Year's Day. That was when it aired. There was an episode with The Miz on there too, which was also great. The only reason I did not review that one was because I had already seen it before it went up on the network, like on YouTube, so I didn't really want to watch it again soon after to review it, maybe at some point down the road, but that's why I did not review that one here on the channel. But the Cesaro one is good. Check out that episode, check out that review, and also check out this episode too with Eric Bischoff from last week. So basically, the premise of Photo Shoot is that they have Eric Bischoff sit down, which I assume was probably around the time of Raw 25, because he hasn't been with the company since WrestleMania, and they filmed a bunch of, I think, the Table for Three with him about a year ago. So I'm sure this was around Raw 25 time. But they sit him in the back, they put him in the back, having him just showing him a bunch of pictures from his life, career in WCW, WWE, and like the first things that go to his mind, or the first thing that comes to his mind about those experiences and what was going on at that time, his thoughts on it. So I'll be talking about the pictures and what he said. So the first picture that we get is with Eric Bischoff, Hulk Hogan, and Randy Savage. He said that it was always a constant roller coaster of a relationship between those two. There was a lot of tense moments, but there was also a lot of great memorable moments too on air, which I can believe. I think a lot of people can believe that too, with Hogan and Savage. A very well-documented rocky relationship over the years. I'm not sure if they actually made up before Savage passed away in 2011. I know there were many stories that Savage had a lot of bad blood towards Hogan towards the end of his life, and Hogan says, "Oh yeah, they made up, brother," and then Hogan inducted him into the WWE Hall of Fame a few years ago. I mean, Hogan's Hogan. He's kind of a bit of a bullshitter, obviously, to say the least. So the fact that he said, "Oh, they made up," I would not put all my money into. I would not I would not gamble on his words there. But, I absolutely believe Bischoff when he says that they had a rocky relationship over the years. We get a picture of Eric Bischoff, a young Eric Bischoff, with the iconic cheesy smile. He said, "It was easy to play the boss that everyone loved to hate because everyone can relate to that, in their workplace and stuff like that." He said he was born with a sense of cockiness about him and that he had an amazing opportunity to play that character and he had a blast. There's a picture of him with a black belt. And he says, I got the porn mustache, and it wasn't from WCW. I guess it was from earlier on in his life. And I knew he was a black belt or he had done karate because he played that up when he would wrestle in WCW. So I remembered that, but I had never seen that picture before, which was cool. We get a picture for whatever reason of the BWO. Nothing to do with Bischoff at all, but obviously a ripoff of his creation in WCW, the NWO. He simply says, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so no bad blood between him and BWO, but that was a little weird why they even bothered to show that. They showed a picture of the first ever Monday Nitro at the Mall of America. He said they could not draw a fucking fly with a crowd anywhere else in the country. So drawing a crowd to the Mall of America, it looked great. It was different. They had to be different from WWE. The crowd had energy, and it looked awesome. So where was you can't complain about that. Picture of him with Psycho Sid, with Sid choking out Bischoff. He says he always got along with him. There's a lot of people, a lot of stories out there of, Bischoff not getting along with certain people, but he always got along with Sid, and he was always easy to work with. There's a picture of Bischoff with Hogan on The Tonight Show, and they're kind of mocking Jay Leno. He said he had a lot of fun doing that. They duplicated the set from The Tonight Show. They would always bring it to every WCW show. He pretended to be Jay Leno, and it got them a lot of mainstream publicity. So, speaking of Jay Leno, the next picture is of Jay Leno delivering a low blow to Eric Bischoff in a match. He said Leno was a little snug with that low blow, but it got an amazing amount of publicity and also a lot of fun. The FedEx envelope is the next picture, obviously referring to the FedEx that he sent to Stone Cold Steve Austin before he was Stone Cold. Steve Williams, or maybe he might have been Steve Austin even at that time in WCW, sending him the envelope to inform him of his release. And a lot of people, I guess, didn't know that it was like company policy to send people FedEx with their release papers. And obviously it became a big part of the Eric Bischoff tales and the Eric Bischoff stories over the years. And he said, when you want to just get it and when you want to just kick it and get it done quick, I think is what he said in regards to the FedEx. But yeah, he discussed the fact that that's what he had done to Stone Cold, and became a big part of who Stone Cold is, or was many, many years later, a few years after that, and they still are good friends to this day, which he obviously brings up a bit later on when more pictures are shown of him and Stone Cold. There's a picture of him with Ric Flair. He said the very definition of an up and down relationship with this man. A lot of amazing memories, but they had challenges, but they weave those challenges into storylines. And it was some of the best on Nitro's history, and he has a lot of respect for Ric Flair. There's a picture of Shane buying WCW from Vince McMahon on that, very memorable episode of Raw back in 2001. He says, honestly, I don't have a lot to say about it. I didn't watch that last episode of Nitro. I was very much removed from the process after it was pretty much, I was unsuccessful in buying WCW from AOL Time Warner. It was a big moment nonetheless, though, he says. There's a picture of him becoming the Raw general manager when he was appointed to the role by Vince McMahon on that episode of Raw in July of 2002. He said, it was a bizarre moment, to say the least. He had come to the conclusion after leaving WCW that he was pretty much done with the business. That chapter was done of his life. But then he got a call from Vince and about coming in to become the new Raw GM, and no one but his wife and attorney knew what was going to happen. Nobody, except for his wife and attorney, which is crazy. And it shocked everyone, even in the back. And if you can shock the wrestlers, you could shock the fans. And he said, in the end, it was a good decision. Picture of him serving as the minister for Billy and Chuck's amazing wedding back in SmackDown of 2002. He said he arrived at the arena early to do the makeup. Because remember, he was the minister, the pastor, and then the minister, to do the makeup as the old man, but it looked nothing like Eric Bischoff. And the voice he did, he looked like a creepy old man. And then he said, did someone say 3 minutes? One of the most amazing moments in SmackDown history is when Bischoff revealed himself to be Eric Bischoff when he was serving as a pastor, or the minister for that Billy and Chuck wedding. And he said, oh yeah, no one backstage knew about it. No one backstage knew it was him, and it was a lot of fun. Picture of him with Big Dick Johnson. He said he forgot all about that moment until it was shown on the screen, so thanks, guys, he says in regards to the production crew. He was getting shoved into Big Dick Johnson's face or his ass or whatever it was, or his dick, maybe, I don't remember. I was trying to not look myself, by D-Generation X. So I assume that was around 06 when he came back for like a quick one-off, was like a special guest referee or something like that. A picture of him with Stone Cold Steve Austin. He said before they had started working together on TV in around like early 03 when Austin walked out of WWE, then came back to face Bischoff, I think in a match in early 03, he said that he had not seen him face-to-face since right before he fired him in WCW. So it was great to morph that real-life heat, quote-unquote, into a storyline. The next picture is of him and Stone Cold when they were serving as Raw, co-GMs. He said there was a lot of fun working with Stone Cold because they liked to improvise. They never talked about what they were going to do, and now they're good friends, and he's grateful for that. With Vince and Paul Heyman is the next picture, all three of them, and I think that segment on Raw right before ECW One Night Stand, I believe in 2000, it had to have been 05 because Bischoff wasn't around in 06. He said it was interesting. He wanted to see which one of them could bring it between Vince and Paul Heyman. It was a lot of fun. He's been pretty good friends, despite what some might believe, with Paul Heyman since 1997. He's one of the best he's ever worked with, and the guy can work a mic. There's a picture of him getting a fucking stink face or a Bronco Buster from Mae Young, which I could have done without, but he said he knew that he'd be put in positions like that to be embarrassed as an on-air character. He knew that upon coming to WWE in 2002. And he makes a great point, too, which I never really thought about, but he makes a great point. I know I've heard other people say this, that Vince would never put anyone in a type of situation like that he would not do himself. Like, how many times have has he had like egg on his face over the years? And his own promotion, the guy books this shit, and he puts himself in situations to, kiss Rikishi's ass and do all this other shit and be embarrassed constantly. So if Vince can do it, if the own fucking boss can do it, other people like Bischoff can do it too. And he realizes that, and he enjoyed those certain segments, even though he thought it might damage his character at times. In the end, he didn't really care because he knew Vince that would do it. He knew that Vince would do it as well. The next picture is of the Elimination Chamber. He said one of the greatest creations ever made in WWE. He wanted to create a physical structure that would become a monster. But then he admits, I wish I could say I had something to do with it, but I had nothing to do with either one of them. Raw Roulette or the Elimination Chamber. Because in character, in storyline, he was responsible for the chamber. It did come during his time on Raw as the GM. But in real life, I think it might have been, when you guys can correct me on this, it might have been Triple H There are a few different people that came up with the idea for the Elimination Chamber. Maybe Bischoff too, but he has said in past interviews that he was not solely responsible. It was largely Triple H and maybe a few other people. And then Raw Roulette, I have no idea. Probably just the writers. There was a picture of him with Vince during the on-air trial of Eric Bischoff right before he got fired. He said it was very well written, very well produced, a great way to go out the door. And the last pictures of him being dumped in a garbage truck. He said, maybe not so good, jokingly. He said by that point he knew it was the end of the road. He got as much out of the role as he possibly could. And a very interesting tidbit before, I don't think I've heard him say before. Maybe he has and I just missed it. But he said that John Cena was originally supposed to dump Eric Bischoff into the garbage truck. But he said, no. That's not what the people want to see, Vince. The people want to see you dump me into the garbage truck. So that's what Vince did. In the end, he put Vince in the garbage truck. He was rattling around in the garbage truck as I left the arena. He said he might have hit himself in the face with his own knee because he was rattling around in there so much. He got out of the truck, walked back in the arena, said goodbye to Vince, and that was it. One of his favorite moments in WWE, and it just so happened to be the end of his time in the company back in 2005. And that was the last picture. That was a very enjoyable episode of WWE Photo Shoot with Eric Bischoff. We don't get to see enough of Eric Bischoff in WWE. And we got him at Raw 25. He was at the WWE Hall of Fame a few years ago. So great to hear that music in person, by the way, when I was there at Raw 25 a few weeks ago. But I also remember he was on the Legends with JBL show in late 2015, which I know I talked about here on the channel. I didn't really do a formal review of it. For like WWE Network and Chill. Maybe at some point I will. I'm sure he repeats a lot of the stuff we talked about here, but Eric Bischoff is a fascinating figure, very cool guy. Would love to meet him at some point, obviously at an indie wrestling show or something. I think my girlfriend might have actually at a show over the summer, but that's neither here nor there in regards to this show, guys. Definitely check it out on the WWE Network, roughly 21 minutes long, but the time just flies by like that. So anyway, I will be back next Monday with another all-new installment of WWE Network and Chill. What I'll be talking about remains to be seen as I record this. I do not know what's airing on Raw tonight, so I guess we'll find out, and I'll talk about it if it's anything new anyway. I will review it right here on WWE Network and Chill next week. If there's nothing new airing after Raw tonight, I will simply take something from the network archives and review it for the show. So anyway, guys, as always, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Not only check out WWE Network and Chill episodes, but WrestleRant, #AskGSM, WrestleRant radio excerpts. We got random video blogs on Fridays, injection of inspiration, other interviews, live reaction videos. My Royal Rumble reaction video with all the entrants from the Men's Royal Rumble is well on its way to becoming one of the most watched video on my entire channel. So definitely continue to check that video out and share it amongst your peers. Anyway, guys, have an awesome rest of the week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.